Welcome to TechHoller.com's Tech Talk Insights. It's your host, Smango from TechHoller.com. You can follow me over on Twitter. I'm not going to go very long because the receiver on this thing is about dead. Today's topic is we're just going to talk about Linux versus Windows. Linux versus Windows. So where to begin? My first operating system, I believe, was an IBM DOS system at school. So we had IBM DOS. So but I remember my mom working at the bank, and there was a computer in one of the offices that had Windows 3.1 on it. And that's where I started learning the GUI. But at school, I learned that you could use the command line and you type in win. And I thought I was a wizard when I figured this out. I could type in win and get to the operating system, Windows 3.1, on some of the computers at school. This is grade school too. This is like 4th grade. Like, this is a long time ago. Long time ago, folks. I'm trying to think when I actually learned about Linux. Let's see. So my first personal computer, was Windows 98, and I was in middle school. So I've been in the Microsoft world forever. My first computer I was in 8th grade. We used Windows 98, 2000. We never did get Me. I had my older family cousin that would fix computers and stuff like that, and I was just into computers ever since then. So it's been Microsoft for, I'd almost say, until I got into college. I don't even remember there being a different operating system. I don't think. I don't know if it was ever mentioned. Like, my thing was like, I'm gonna repair computers, whenever I was in high school. Repair and work on computers, and we had a networking class, so I did know a little bit about networking, very little. My networking knowledge came way later than learning in high school. I never took it serious in high school, I guess, but networking, I knew like the basics. Like, I've created a network cable. I don't know if I ever telnetted into a switch. I know for a fact I didn't SSH into a switch. I don't think I would have used a console cable either. Learned all that way later. Been into the Windows world for a long time, so it's kind of hard to break that habit. Been able to click, pretty much install whatever you want, as long as you had admin rights. Install patch, you click, runs. Windows just kind of works. Now, college, we had a professor named Mr. Demikoff. Cool guy, a really good teacher, I will say. And that's where I started learning a lot about computers. And I remember one of the classes before we had the Linux class, there was a class that he said if anybody could hack his computer, that they would get an A+ and they wouldn't have to show up for class or anything. So the whole class tried to do it, and they couldn't do it, obviously, because we're all a bunch of noobs. They tried everything. They tried, God, what was it? I'm trying to remember it. Oh man, what was the disk everybody downloaded back then? There was a disk, Emergency Defender Recovery or something, like EDS, something along those lines. It was way before anybody knew about Hirons, or Hirons was big, or offline password NT. And somebody actually brought up Knoppix, and I think that was my first introduction to Linux, was a live CD. They don't even make that anymore. I don't think they do, but nobody uses a CD. Nobody has a small enough Linux. It's getting harder. It's getting harder to have a small Linux, even for a CD, like just 780 megabytes. It's hard to do. You have to go pretty far back to get a 700 megabyte Linux ISO now. So try to find that out. But yeah, we had a Linux class, and our flavor we had was Fedora, and actually Fedora was really, really cool. But it was so much different than Windows. This was like 2006, 2007 Fedora Core. It was actually called Fedora Core. It wasn't called Fedora. So we had Fedora Core, and one of the projects was to try to get like Java running even. Man, that was a trip. But looking back on it, I was like, that was a good project, really. The biggest thing, now Linux is going to be different. So Windows, maybe I just think Windows, maybe some people think Windows sucks because they had Mac the whole time, but you know, I don't know if it's where you come from. And we'll talk about Macs one day too. But this is just Windows versus Linux. My life, or how I was introduced to Linux anyway. And we had Fedora Core. We had to install Java or get some kind of just something to work that you would normally put on. Looking back on it, it makes more sense now, but then we just thought it was just like a, you know, it was just a test. But really, you want to use Linux as you would any other computer or a workstation. Or you would say if somebody needed to look up a PDF, they needed a PDF reader. You need to know how to install that. I don't remember, was it still Yum? I know it's not Yum anymore. It's DNF on the Fedora or Red Hat side of things. And I don't even think I realized what different distros was. He also made us install SUSE Linux. So SUSE and Fedora Core was like and you know, this college tried to get you ready for going to work. So the focus was business. So if you was in a business, you know, you couldn't really get Red Hat for free at this time. You couldn't try it out like you can now. You had to get Fedora, which was upstream of, or a downstream, is it upstream of Red Hat? I think that's how it works. But I don't even think CentOS was a thing. I don't remember it ever been talked about. So there's SUSE and Fedora Core, and we worked on those. And we was just trying to get like Java to run. Just installing like just a web browser even. I think now, if you really want to learn Linux, I think it really helps to just I tell everybody, if you want to learn Linux, use it like you would any other Windows computer, Mac, whatever you come from. Use it like you would anybody else and look up how to install stuff. That's it. You can get ChatGPT to help you. You can have ChatGPT make you bash scripts that can update your computer off the fly like you want. There's so many things now in Linux. Linux almost works great out of the box now. Not always. It's according to what flavor, what hardware you got, if it can find the drivers, if the drivers work. That's the biggest thing when it comes to the drivers. So the biggest thing for me was, I'm a gamer, and gaming on Linux, especially back then, it worked, but not well. I remember getting World of Warcraft to work on Linux once, and I thought that was amazing that I got it to work. And I had to install it from Windows and had to read the Windows drive because I didn't have a clue how to, you know, search a CD or install with Wine or anything this time. Somehow I got it to work with just the exe file. So Wine was installed, but it ran somehow. I didn't have to do much, but I just used my Windows directory. And I think I've done this much later after college though, but I didn't do that in college. There ain't no way. But yeah, I've run into some trouble with Linux too. You know, partitioning drives is, you need to learn how to partition drives, a swap file, what file system to use. That's important. I still struggle with that a little bit. I'm not very good at partitioning hard drives. I usually just Windows or Linux take over and just use the whole hard drive because it's the way I learned. That's what I do in Windows. So that's what I do in Linux. Now I can do that. I'll limp through it, but I mean, I think if you want to use Linux, things I use Linux for, web servers, big time web servers, almost anything web-based is probably going to run on Linux. So if you have like any, like a wiki for your company or something, it'll probably run on Linux. You need SSH into it. Web servers, big. I've run a million web servers for businesses and stuff like that. But it all runs on Linux. You don't want to run that on Windows. Golly, that would be so bad. Just being able to terminal in and run commands, and it's big. It helps. You can run cron tabs, help you update your system automatically. You can have it. There's so much you can do with Linux now. It's so customizable. Windows servers, it does good things for Windows. In the IT world, it's great for managing Windows computers and Windows systems and Active Directory. So you can actually you can have your Linux server or computer workstation use AD to log in if you want somebody to log in using their AD credentials. That's great. It's so easy to connect now. And now with Steam and Proton, gaming's just about there. And for all you guys from the Quake fans, I would say Proton and Quake Live runs better than Windows 11 and Quake Live installing it from Steam at this point. I haven't tried it yet, but that's my theory. Like if you have a modern computer, Windows or Quake Live does not work well. It sucks on Windows 11. It actually doesn't work for me anymore. I guarantee if I installed Linux on a modern system, and you know, I need a modern desktop that just runs Linux so I can test stuff like this out. I mean, I need to get something extra. That would be great. I mean, I could do it with an older computer, but I want like new hardware. New hardware, like it's a Linux, just latest, like a 40, probably not a 4080 like I got in my Windows, but I don't know, 3060 or something. I don't know. That'd be great just to test out Linux on just pure Linux installed on a desktop, no Windows whatsoever, see what actually runs good on it. That would be great. I would love to be able to switch over, but there's so many things I do on Windows, like OBS. I've used it on Linux before. It's not great. There's certain games I like on Windows that might not work on Linux. I'm just like, ugh. I guess I could dual boot, but I don't like doing that either because I'm just always tempted to just go back to my comfort zone, which is Windows. So it'd be great just to have a dedicated Linux computer with a GUI. And we'll talk about GUI someday too. But this has went a little longer than I thought. Hope you guys like TechHoller.com's Tech Talk Insights. I'm trying to do this at least daily or every other day when I get a chance to do it. Hope you guys enjoy it. We'll see you guys in the next one.